All right. Well, thank you. Well, first off, thanks everybody for being here and taking your time to listen to our story. So, my name is Goedschalk, and I'm a proud citizen and resident of Suriname, the greenest, most forested country in the world, and one of only 2 carbon-negative countries. And BioTara will ensure that it remains that way forever. And the way we do that is by making sure that standing forests are worth more to local communities alive than dead. And I emphasize local communities because I believe that if you take anybody at this conference here and you ask them, would you rather have living forests or dead forests? They're going to say, sure, living. But it's not an actual trade-off for us, is it? Because we're not living in the forests every single day. We don't have to choose between letting this tree stand and feeding our children. But that is the reality of many forest-based communities. And that's the reality that we're going to change. And the way we're going to do that is by unlocking the potential of Amazonia's bioeconomy through a marriage of entrepreneurship and conservation. And I'm going to show you how we do that. Well, I think the problem's been explained quite clearly already. So we don't need to get into that too much. But please remember, every single day we are losing Amazonia rainforest. Every single day. And if that continues, we will have ecological collapse, not only in South America, but globally. And if we want to stop this, there's only one way to do that, and that's by ensuring that local communities get access to global markets so that they can make a living from standing forests. And that means that we need to fill in these gaps. We need to make sure that they have the technology, the education and the training they need, the access to capital and access to global markets, so that they can, with these wonderful crops that they have, such as burichi, such as Brazil nuts, such as awara, amana, copaiba, and doroba. You can call out another hundreds of species. All of them very valuable for the cosmetics industry. But currently, because they lack these resources, they're unable to connect to these markets. So how do we solve this? Well, I've had the privilege for the last 11 or so years to be working very closely with a lot of these communities in the forest. And what I learned is that when there is entrepreneurship in a community, when a community owns its own productive capacity, they actually can make different choices that are in line with making forests survive while also thriving. This is an example that I had the privilege of working with an indigenous community in the Amazon, where we jointly created a Brazil nut oil plant. And this Brazil nut oil plant increased community income by 150%. It created 100 jobs. And it also is currently protecting 235,000 hectares. Now, that 235,000 hectares of protection means no wildlife trafficking anymore. It means gold mining is kept out, and it means an absorption of 191,000 tons of CO2 every single year. So the next question that I ask myself is, how do I scale that? How do we turn this not into a single instance, but how do we turn this into a ubiquitous concept throughout Amazonia, potentially throughout the rest of the tropical forest world as well? Well, the answer is by distilling the needed technology, the access to capital, and access to markets. So, BioTara proposes a revolutionary franchising model, one that creates a system that is scalable, replicable, and fast. It means that every community that has access to these types of resources will now have access to what's needed to connect to global markets. In exchange for that access, we will charge a fee. We're not an NGO, we're a for-profit for a good company, so we're going to be charging money for that. But in exchange, we offer access to funding, we will perform all sales and marketing activities, we will provide the needed technology, and ensure adherence to the social safeguards that are required to maintain the social fabric of these communities. Communities that wish to participate will have to protect forest, they will have to agree to restoration activities, commit to regenerative harvesting, and also comply to the social safeguard framework. So what happens when we do all that? Well, what happens is that where communities are currently only earning 5% of the entire value chain, we will enable them to earn 75% of that chain. And the way we're going to make that work is by step one, identifying community-based entrepreneurs who have access to trees that have these oils and that they can actually prove that they have the labor force. Once we have that, we sit down, negotiate, agree to the franchise conditions. We establish long-term sales agreements with large cosmetics companies. We then secure the financing so that we can build the right factories, get the certification done, get the training done, and then we start producing. Because at the end of the day, it's about producing the right types of products within healthy supply chains. That is what's going to make the difference. And finally, we're going to ensure all necessary customer support and after sales. So, what exactly is the market opportunity? People tend to ask me. How much can you really make? Is this real? Well, I'll tell you, it's $8.3 billion real. The oils that we are talking about here, and this is only a segment of it, are currently trading for $8.3 billion worldwide. Of that, $5.1 billion is right here in the EU and the US, and we intend to capture no less than $209 million of that within the next decade. And the reason I know that we are going to be able to do this is because when you look at the mega trends all around us, we know that capital is demanding ESG compliance. We know that consumers are tired of putting petrochemical products on their face. And we know that the EU, with the Green Deal, is leading the way on ensuring that the right types of regulation create these markets. And these markets are for skincare, hair care, lotion, you name it. All of these things that we use daily, but that currently come from the petrochemical industries and oftentimes from deforestation-related sources. So, shareholders, they're demanding our money must do good. Consumers are saying we'll pay more if it's good for the planet. And finally, the EU is also, with its Green Deal, leading the way and saying no more imported deforestation per December 2024. They're also saying, by the way, you're going to have to start paying for your carbon once you enter the EU markets. And then there's a number of other regulations in terms of transparency. And we intend to make sure that the communities, together with BioTara, are ready for that shift. We are going to be offering regenerative, large supply oils to these cosmetics industries. Of those, 75% of the revenues will be going to the local communities. We will offer full supply chain traceability and ensure biodiversity positivity and carbon negativity. And this is already resonating. We have spoken to some of the largest industry players to date, and we've already started receiving orders. We've started receiving orders for samples as well as product itself. So the next question then, but can you make money? How will this sustain itself? Is this a sustainable business model? I believe it is. It'll take us about 4 years to get to profitability, and after that, we're going to see incredible growth as the system starts to scale and more communities come on board, and the regulation drives this market into sizes that are as of yet unknown. Now, these are great numbers, right? It's good to be healthy in terms of profitability, but maybe even more important, certainly to me, are these numbers. When we have 100 communities within our ecosystem, we will be protecting no less than 4 million hectares of forest. We will be sequestering 3.2 million tons of carbon a year, and we will have lifted 10,000 families out of poverty. That's what gets me up every day. That's what drives BioTara. And that's what's going to make the difference. So what's it going to take? Well, it's going to take some money. It's that simple. We are going to have to invest. Now, it's not a huge round, but we are in the middle of that round. We're raising $750,000, or sorry, Swiss francs, to ensure that we can build the right facilities, get everything done, and we will be offering a very healthy return on investment on top of all the other benefits that you were just able to take a look at. And people have started joining in. We've got Marco Rotzenek, head of NOAH, that's part of the pre-seed investment team. We've got Martin Stuckty, Morten Rossa, a few others in the background, and we're working with some of the best minds in sustainability. Think about systemic, think about brain forest, think about palladium, regeneration, and of course the land banking group, an incredibly important partner for us. So what's the win? Who wins when BioTara wins? Forest-based communities. They'll get decent jobs, fair income, and able to progress towards the SDGs using their own labor, their own companies. Cosmetics companies, they can comply, and they can keep delivering. BioTara, the investors and the team will be able to actually get healthy returns on investments. And most importantly, forest, climate, and planet. This is the team that's going to get it done. We've got Daniela, we've got Ralph, and I have the privilege of leading that team. If you see any of us walking around, please come and have a chat. We'd love to share the story. Thank you very much.